arrests, 100 or so, more than 100 defendants who have been arrested in connection to this gang investigation. Again, some of the key. All right, looks like we're ready to listen in.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. I am Sheriff Darrell, D-A-R-R-E-L-L, Dix, D-I-X. I'm the sheriff of Spalding County. And for the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about a joint operation between the Spalding County Sheriff's Office, Georgia Bureau of Investigations, Georgia Department of Corrections, Georgia Department of Community Service, and the Griffin Judicial Circuit District Attorney's Office. It was a very large operation, and I'll kind of fill you in. In December of 2022, I tasked my gang unit and special ops unit to do something about the gang problem that we were having here in Griffin and Spalding County, specifically directed at the Neighborhood Bloods Rolling 20s Zoo Crew. This criminal organization is directly responsible for the increase in drive-by shootings and other crimes that have resulted in injuries and deaths in the city of Griffin and Spalding County. They fund their efforts by trading in illegal narcotics, firearms, and through other crimes. They actively recruit new gang members, specifically targeting our youth. They also, one of the enticements they give to our youth is they like to provide them with firearms. Multiple pictures on social media of kids, elementary school kids and middle school kids, brandishing firearms that have been given to them by members of the Zoo Crew. Investigators contacted their partners with the GBI Gang Task Force, the Griffin Judicial Circuit District Attorney Marie Broder's office, and requested assistance. In February of this year, the joint investigation into the Neighborhood Blood Rolling 20 Zoo Crew had gone from violations of the Georgia Criminal Street Gang and Terrorism Act to include violations of the Georgia Racketeering, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act. The culmination of this investigation began yesterday after grand jury indictments were handed down on 76 Zoo Crew members here in Spalding County and throughout the middle part of the state. These indictments specifically targeted the leaders, hierarchy, and chain of command of the gang. And by the way, none of these people were indicted because of who they are, where they live, what they look like, or where they hang out, or who they hang out with. They were indicted because the investigation has proved that illegal narcotics and firearms are being trafficked to fund their ongoing criminal enterprise. They are active participants in this gang who profit from and gain from their gang activities. Arrests began at approximately 1 p.m. yesterday afternoon. As of now, 57 of the 76 indicted gang members have been captured or are already in custody on other charges. Other jurisdictions are working with us to locate those who are outside of Spalding County. More than a dozen search warrants have been executed since this investigation began, and more than 25 firearms have been seized from gang members. I'm proud of the work the men and the women of the Spalding County Sheriff's Office do every day. I'm proud of the Spalding County Special Operations and Sting units, the GBI agents assigned to both their gang and drug units, and the district attorneys, all that they accomplished along with the district attorney's office in this operation. They work in unison, they work hard, and they are the best of the best. And I'm telling you right here, folks, I would put our special ops and gang unit and the GBI's gang unit and their drug unit and our district attorney's office up against anybody when it comes to investigating gangs, their knowledge of gangs, and prosecuting gangs in Georgia. I stand right beside them with that. Criminal street gangs in Georgia have affiliations and ties to other criminal street gangs across the nation, and they are not wannabes like we hear all the time. Those days are gone. They are not wannabes, and they're not kids who just play a game of make-believe. Their victims don't make-believe. They are shot by wannabes, and the parents of these victims don't believe they're playing make-believe when they get called to the hospital where their kids have been shot and injured or imprisoned because of gang activity. If you don't believe me, talk to the parents and family of Jacaris Holland, a young man who was graduating college, had his own business. Jacaris was loved by his family and friends. He was traveling up North Hill Street here in Spalding County when gang members pulled up beside him, filled his car with holes. He stepped out of the car that he was in and collapsed in the middle of the street. He had absolutely no ties to any gang in any way, shape, form, or fashion. That was a young man in his 20s who was making something out of his life. And because of who his family members are, he was gunned down. We have his killers in custody right now. We are awaiting trial. Also, you can talk to the family of Asijah Jones, an 11-year-old girl who was laying in her bed with her sister when gunshots rang out in the Spalding Heights apartment complex. 23 gunshots fired from a rifle. One of those rounds striking her in the face and killing her while she was laying in bed with her sister. Talk to the families of those people and convince them that what we have in Griffin and Spalding County and across this state are wannabe gang members or people who are playing make-believe. Convince them of it, because you won't. You won't convince me either. Convince the families of many others who have been shot, injured, killed, or imprisoned because of gang violence right here. I've stood in courtrooms and watched angry parents, people who would come to me, and I'm sure that these people standing up here have had come to them, talking to them, my child is not in a gang. You got the wrong person. You're arresting them because of who they're hanging out with. And I've seen those same parents sit in the courtroom and cry when their children say in front of a judge, when they plead guilty or they're found guilty, that yes, I'm a gang member. So what I'm telling you with that, I urge parents, be involved with what your kids are doing. Be involved with who they're hanging out with. Keep up with your kids, because you might be surprised at what's going on. I've stood in front of you many times just like I am today, and I'm saying to you without a doubt that none of the agencies represented here believes in wannabes. We all refuse to play a child's game of make-believe when it comes to stopping gangs and gang violence in our communities. We stand with the people who are the real victims, their families, those who are terrorized by gangs, and those living in fear in their own neighborhoods. Today, you're not going to hear the same old cliches telling gang members about how to stay out of Spalding County because of the stance we take on drugs and gangs. You're not going to hear that. You're not going to hear all those warnings that people usually stand up here and talk about. Everyone standing here today or who has assisted in this investigation is past that point. The people who live in this city and county are past that point, and I'm past this point, to be honest with you. Our stance speaks for itself. You can check the record. It's echoed by everyone here today. And the last thing I'll say is this. To gang members out here, go ahead, get out while you can, and live a productive life, or you can become a statistic, get assigned a GDOC prisoner number, one way or the other. If you fool around, you're going to find out. All right? Ms. Marie Broder, District Attorney.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. My name is Marie Broder. That's MarieBroder. I am the District Attorney for the Griffin Judicial Circuit. That includes Fayette, Spalding, Pike, and Upson counties. Before I begin on my prepared remarks to you this afternoon, I want to point out that the men and women who are in this room have worked tirelessly on this case. And I want to point out and thank them for their dedication, for their hard work, because they do not hear thank you enough. So I want to start by saying thank you, and the community thanks you for what you did. Operation Blood Clot and Operation Crack the Ice were investigations by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the Spalding County Sheriff's Office, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation working together. Collaboration, I know the Attorney General talks about it a lot. Collaboration and teamwork is what made this happen. And it is often said that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. But today, good men, and yesterday, good men and women across this state banded together to do something. Here in this community, the threat of gang violence has been growing at a steady pace. Make no mistake, our situation is dire. Not only are we losing young lives to stray bullets, we are using young lives to the plague of gang membership and to the drugs that gangs funnel into our community. Violence has increased, and the age of gang members has steadily dipped lower and lower. Even children in our elementary schools are being recruited by gangs, wooed by the idea of quick and easy money, respect, and a sense of belonging. Here in the Griffin Judicial Circuit, gangs touch each part of our community. It is not limited by race, neighborhood, or income level. And while law enforcement in our circuit works so hard to meet the needs of the people that they serve, and my offices strive to help pick up the pieces of a shattered life, we cannot do it alone. It takes a community to stop gang violence. Let me be clear. This is our community. And without the community's help, we will not win this war. But if we work together and collaborate, we can address this growing threat. It is only working together that this community and so many like it can move forward. I want to thank the sheriff. I want to thank the attorney general. I want to thank the GDC. I want to thank the GBI. I want to thank everybody that played a part. Let these indictments resound with our resolve to end the plague of gangs in the Griffin Judicial Circuit. Thank you. And I will call on GBI Director Mike Register.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure being here, and this is a good day. Before I get started, I'll just echo what's already been said. You know, the partnerships can't be overstated. We can't do it alone, and that's with our local, state, and federal partners, but also the members of our community. From the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, I'm the Director, Mike Register. That's spelled R-E-G-I-S-T-E-R. And we have several of our Georgia Bureau of Investigation personnel here today. I wanted to recognize a couple. Assistant Director Chris Hosey is here, and also our ASAC in charge of our GBI gang efforts, Clay Kilcrease, is also here. And hats off to the hard work that he does with his individuals. You know, the gang issue has been a priority for Governor Kemp, and it's also a priority for the GBI. But I think it's also, and you'll hear from him later, but I want to thank the Attorney General, Chris Carr, for being here today. Sheriff, thank you for your efforts. DA, Madam DA, thank you for your efforts. And you'll be hearing from this young man to my right after me, the Commissioner of the Department of Corrections, Tyrone Oliver. Very complex, and I'm going to try to walk you through the investigation because it is a complex investigation, and you'll see as we talk about the investigation, there's so many moving parts, and it's so comprehensive. Following a long investigation, 34 people were indicted by the Spalding County District Attorney's Office on the following charges: 72 defendant counts of violations of the Georgia Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, 18 defendant counts of violations of the Georgia Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act, 8 defendant counts of trafficking methamphetamine, and 1 defendant count of terroristic threats. In late 2020, it was determined that Ghostface gangster Chad Ashley Allen, serving life sentence at Georgia State Prison in Tattnall County for murder, was in coordination with Mexican drug trafficking organizations to be called DTOs. Members of the Ghostface gangsters and other criminal street gang organizations were involved in the enterprise. Allen's illicit activity spans the state of Georgia, including, but not limited to, Spalding, Butts, Fulton, DeKalb, Gwinnett, Rockdale, Newton, Troup, and Tattnall County. Between April 2014 and September 22, the men and women who have been indicted participated in a pattern of racketeering activity as part of the criminal enterprise led by Allen. The organization spans from Mexico and throughout Georgia, distributing methamphetamine, fentanyl, and heroin in coordination with criminal street gang members throughout the state and associates who were party to the enterprise within and outside the Georgia Department of Corrections. This criminal enterprise committed numerous crimes, including but not limited to drug trafficking, assaults, and also firearm offenses. The conspiracy involves a pattern of criminal coordination in which Allen sourced illicit drugs from Mexico via Mexican DTOs. Allen then recruits a system of street-level distributors to fulfill requests for enormous amounts of methamphetamine and other dangerous drugs. These conspiracies were coordinated using contraband cell phones, which were smuggled by co-conspirators in public to co-conspirators incarcerated within the prison. These contraband cell phones were used to coordinate with co-conspirators, both incarcerated and civilian, in exchange for considerable amounts of illicit earnings laundered through mobile banking applications. The analysis of records recovered from these contraband cell phones, social media platforms, and infiltration of the criminal enterprise by undercover law enforcement officers was vital to the success of this investigation, plus good old-fashioned police work and investigations. The investigation revealed a conspiracy to traffic vast amounts of methamphetamine and resulted in the recovery of numerous firearms, including ghost guns. And when we talk about Allen and his mentality, this is a quote directly from Allen, who is serving a life sentence. "We are fixing to go back to hands-on 24/7 crime. We are a criminal organization, not a Boy Scout troop." That's a direct quote from him. And I said, you know, the participation in the partnership has just been phenomenal. And I'd like to specifically thank the departments that were involved in this. Our Georgia Department of Corrections, Homeland Security Investigations, Atlanta Gangs Division, the Spalding County District Attorney's Office, the Spalding County Sheriff's Office, our GBI West Metro Regional Drug Enforcement Office, Griffin Police Department, the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office, the Butts County Sheriff's Office, and the Troup County Sheriff's Office. And so you see it's really been a group effort to do this, and you see the fruits. And as the sheriff said, you know, we're committed to making Georgia a safe place for all our citizens to live and a safe place for all our children to be raised in. I'll be followed next by our Commissioner, Department of Corrections, Tyrone Oliver.
Thank you, Director. And my name is Tyrone Oliver, Commissioner of the Department of Corrections. That's Tyrone, Oliver, Oliver. As Commissioner of the Department of Corrections, I'm honored to stand here alongside of dedicated men and women who work tirelessly to fight against this ongoing battle against contraband, introduction of contraband and criminal activity within our state prison system. I'm truly thankful for the continued support of the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, Department of Homeland Security, Spalding County Sheriff's Office, and other state and local law enforcement agencies across the state of Georgia. Your hard work and commitment have played a vital role in helping eradicate gang activity within the walls of our prisons and state, and so I thank you. Today, we're here to recognize two operations that may have made our prisons safer. Operation Blood Clot and Operation Crack the Ice. It is operations such as these that make partnerships between the Georgia Department of Corrections and other state and local agencies so important. Through our collaboration and shared resources, we can make a stronger impact in this fight. It's gangs like this that we mentioned here today that pose a serious threat to our lives each and every day. Governor Kemp's initiative to fight against gangs and the dangerous crimes that they commit, including drug and human trafficking, has been instrumental in our efforts to dismantle gangs and these criminal organizations. His commitment to making Georgia a safer place to live, work, and raise a family is unwavering, and I'm proud to stand here today with my peers to support him in that effort. As Commissioner, I pledge to make a hard stance against gangs and the harm that they bring upon my staff, our schools, and our community. Together with our law enforcement partners, we will work together to ensure the safety and security of our great state. And again, I just can't thank the partnership enough because without this partnership, we wouldn't be able to do this, and I truly believe it's going to make not only our state's prison system safer, but our communities as well. And I'll turn it over to our great Attorney General, Chris Carr.
Commissioner, thank you. I'm Chris Carr. I'm the Attorney General for the state of Georgia, CHRIS-CARR. Just under a month ago, we came to Griffin and Spalding County with the Georgia Anti-Gang Network. Now, what that is, that was an organization created by our office back in 2017 or 2018 for the first time ever to try to bring together federal, state, and local law enforcement to talk about fighting gangs. And we had 4 priorities. 1's improved communication, 2, improved intelligence sharing, 3, improved prosecutions, and 4, to identify anti-recruitment efforts. This operation is a prime example of what happens when you come together, you leverage your assets and your resources to do one thing: keep the people of this state safe. I cannot commend this group, and you see the different groups of folks from the federal to the state to the local level that came together to do just that. Because in Georgia, and Director Register just said it, from the governor to the legislature to our office to everybody, to the sheriff to the DA, we have said we are going after criminal street gangs in this state, that it is unacceptable to sell guns or drugs or human beings or steal benefits or cybercrime, whatever it may be, on the backs of Georgia's citizens. Georgia's Constitution says it's the paramount duty of government to protect person and property. And who are the communities most often terrorized by gangs? Lower income, racially diverse, and immigrant populations. As was said before, I don't care your race, your gender, your sexual orientation, where you live or where you're from, you deserve to be safe in this state, and that's exactly what was done here too. And another thing I'll just point out, I talked about anti-recruitment efforts. Here the ages of children that continue to be terrorized by gangs, continue to get involved in gang activity that leads at best to a life in prison, and worse, could be the end of their life. We are seeing younger and younger children becoming more and more violent, and we have to be able to intervene, to divert, and to prevent ever getting involved in gang activity to begin with. So I commend this entire group. And I want to say, this sheriff and this district attorney, the residents of Spalding County, you are fortunate to have them. This is what leadership looks like. Because when sheriffs won't investigate, or when district attorneys refuse to prosecute the laws of our state, crime goes up. Those that are most vulnerable will continue to be terrorized, and it is a blueprint for criminals. But between the partnerships that they have with these partners that are here, we are saying absolutely not. And if you go after our children, as the governor said, we're going after you. Sheriff, I think you're next.
Thank you, everybody that was on the panel. Thank you very much for your comments, and especially thank you for your support, and friendships. Because I think that's one of the things that helps drive this, is that we all know each other. We can pick up the phone and call each other at any time, and I think that goes a long way. There are no egos in this room. It's not about any of us standing up here. It's about protecting the community. So, does anybody have any questions?
Sheriff, can you clarify the number of arrests?
Yes, ma'am. Arrests right now are at 57. We have 19 that are still wanted. That's not counting Operation Crack the Ice. That is just from Operation Blood Clot that we did right here.
Sheriff, approximately how many shooting incidents would you say that this group has been responsible for?
I would say from January 1st until March 31st, there were a total of about 35 shooting incidents, and I would say that this group is probably responsible for at least 50% of them, this one group.
Is that just here in Griffin Spalding?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, can you talk a little bit about the challenge of trying to stay ahead of this? I know the recruitment is always happening, even with these indictments, there are more people out there, and the efforts will be continuing on their part. So talk about the challenge of trying to stay ahead of this.
Yes, ma'am. We talked about how we tried to get into this, and as you've heard the term many times before, cut the head off a snake. Unfortunately, I haven't seen anybody in the 36 years that I've been in law enforcement find that snake. So you have to just keep going at what you can go at. A lot of these people are emboldened because of the current state of society that we're in right now. And younger people are getting drawn into that more and more. If you take a young child or a young person who comes up in a neighborhood, who comes up in an area where they don't have opportunities, you know, a trip to Walmart to them is a big thing. You know, everybody in this room right now, if you wanted to get in a car and you wanted to drive to the beach, you could drive to the beach. If you wanted to drive to the North Georgia mountains, you could drive to the North Georgia mountains and see how beautiful this state is. But there are a lot of young people here in every area that is affected by gang problems that will never step foot across their county line or the city limit sign where they live. So they're easily swayed to do these things because they see that as a way out, especially the younger people who want to be loved, they want to be involved, they want to have belonging in something. And a lot of times these issues start out very innocuous with young people, and they just get drawn in the beginning, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And by the time it gets to the point that they are violent offenders like the people that we deal with now, it's because they've been groomed into these positions from the very beginning. They've been groomed to trust certain people. They've been groomed to trust their leadership. So whatever their leadership says, that's what they do. And a lot of them, they don't have, at their young ages, they don't have the ability to realize what they're doing, the severity of what they're doing, and the consequences of what they're doing. And that's what's so disturbing. That's what's so disturbing.
Sheriff, can I say one thing about recruitment?
Yeah.
One of the things y'all mentioned, that we're trying to identify programs where we can intervene and prevent. However, just this past session, Governor Kemp, our office, and the legislature worked on SB 44, which will provide mandatory minimums for adults that recruit children into gangs. 10 to 15 years for the first offense, 15 to 25 for the second. And the reason is we think it's unconscionable for an adult to take advantage of a child. And in Georgia, now you're going to pay the penalty.
Anybody else?
Sheriff, what would you say to somebody who is being actively recruited to join a gang?
Stand strong. Being recruited into a gang and being a follower doesn't make you a grown-up. It doesn't make you a man. It doesn't make you a woman. It takes a real man or a real woman to stand aside and say, no, I'm not going to be a follower. I want to be a leader. I want to be somebody who stands up. The problem is I can stand up here and say that all day long, but if they don't get the support in their homes, they don't get the support in their communities, they don't get the support from their friends and their peers, you know, it doesn't last very long. But the best thing I can say is don't do it. Don't get involved. Don't stick your foot in the water just to see what the temperature is. Because if you ever stick your foot in the water, it's going to take your whole body and you're going to be gone. Okay? Anybody else? All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you being here.
One more question, clarification on the numbers for the other group, the other,
We know we have a number of individuals involved that are already incarcerated. As far as the individuals outside of the Department of Corrections, I don't have that number currently with me.
did you have the number of arrests so far, or did you already say that?
No, I said the people arrested, we have incarcerated individuals that are already in custody, and then other individuals that are outside the prison system or the jail system. I don't have the number of individuals that we've actually found and arrested.